Okay, so we start week 2 of the 2024 NFL season with two teams that were pretty convincing in week 1. You have the Dallas Cowboys really beat up on the Browns pretty good, and then talk about beating up. I mean, the New Orleans Saints really put the beating on the Carolina Panthers, and I think this could be a solid game, but I think that now the Saints are going from playing the Panthers, who just flat out looked worse than they looked last year. And I we knew that the defense was going to be worse. It looked worse on paper. Uh, Not having Brian Burns, and now that Derek Brown is out, the Saints really, you know, played a horrible team week 1, as we all know. I mean, not a secret the Panthers are bad, but now you're going to Dallas. You're going to play the Dallas Cowboys in their home, in their place. So I think that's why the Dallas Cowboys are going to win this football game. I mean, I did, Derek Carr had a really good week 1, but I think that Saints offensive line isn't going to be too good at keeping the pressure off of. I almost said Dak, but Derek Carr. You look at the Cowboys defensive line. I mean, the leader Micah Parsons. They're going to be all over Derek Carr this game, and when Derek Carr is under pressure, Derek Carr is no longer a pretty good quarterback. When Derek Carr is under pressure, he becomes a pretty bad quarterback. And the Saints have good weapons: Olave, Rashid, Raheem Shaheed. They have Alvin Kamara. They have a few nice pieces in the defense. I think the Saints are a good football team. I don't think they're a great football team, and they're going to a team that's very dominant in the regular season, and I assume that's going to continue here. Maybe not a dominating win, maybe not a crazy dominating stifling win over the New Orleans Saints, but I think it's going to be a pretty good game. I say that this is a close game. Say it could be a close game, but but you know what? I would take the Cowboys in this. I mean, they're favored by 6. I'd absolutely take the Cowboys in this. I think they should cover. They're at home. I know I said it should be a close game, but not that close. I mean, I think there would be times where it feels like the game is close, but it really isn't. Maybe because I think that the Cowboys are going to take care of business at home. I mean, it is week 2 though, so it's still early in the season. Really, anything can happen at any time in the season, but I would be wary of it being week 2. But with the Dallas Cowboys being at home, with it being regular season, Dak Prescott, they're fairly healthy. I would go ahead and be confident with the Cowboys winning by more than 6, winning by a touchdown. So yeah, take the chance on the Cowboys, but don't forget it is week 2. Remember, bet responsibly. All right. Next up, okay, forget about that. We'll come back to that later. So then you have the Detroit Lions at home taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that 7.5 point spread is a pretty big spread. And I thought about this game for a little while. I thought about taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I couldn't because, I loved how Baker Mayfield played week 1. He looked phenomenal. But I mean, I think the Bucs are maybe a little bit better of a version of the Rams are. I mean, the Bucs have a good defense. Although they did play the Commanders week 1, they still have a good defense. They're going to be without one of the best defensive players in the league, in Antoine Winfield Jr. Yes, Antoine Winfield Jr. is one of my best defensive players in the league. He's such a good safety. He's a ball hawk. And, he's good. He's awesome. If you haven't heard of him, but I mean, if you haven't heard of him, you're living under a rock, man. But Antoine Winfield Jr. out. That's a big loss. They have a couple of injuries actually, and it's unfortunate. But we saw them versus Jaden Daniels in the Commanders run game. They did pretty good, but now you're going up against one of the best run games in the NFL, if not the best. David Montgomery. You have Jahmyr Gibbs. Goff isn't really fast, but you have two really dynamic backs in their own ways. One is a bruiser, one's more of a kind of juke you out of your shoes, break your ankles kind of guy. But I do think the Detroit Lions are going to win this football game. They're at home. It depends what Detroit Lions team are we going to get. Are we going to get the regular or the I'm trying to think of the word. Are we going to get the well, in the overtime, are we going to get the overtime Detroit Lions, or are we going to get the Detroit Lions we saw in the first 4 quarters of that game? I mean, if you get the overtime Detroit Lions at least in a half, or at all, I think that the Detroit Lions are going to win this football game. But if they look regular, in the regular, before overtime, they look like that. I mean, I think they're still going to win. But Detroit Lions, I think they run the football pretty well. I think that they win pretty good at home. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think it's going to be a good game. I wouldn't touch that spread. I think that's a big spread for week 2. And having Baker Mayfield under center, I mean, he's starting to become a quarterback that you can't bet against. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if the Bucs win this game. I think it's going to be a good football game, but I do think going from playing the Commanders to the Lions, that is a big jump. I'm taking the Detroit Lions 27-23 over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Lions defense is really good as well. It's miles ahead of the Washington Commanders. Terron Arnold, and they have Brian Branch. They have so many in the defensive line. Aiden Hutchinson. They have so many guys on that defense that make plays on every single level. So definitely a little bit more of a challenge for Baker Mayfield in this Bucs offense, but I still think the way Baker Mayfield is playing, offense still will look pretty good, but at the end of the day, I think the Lions win at home. Okay, next up, we do have, I believe it is the Packers and the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are actually favored by 3. I screwed that up. But this game, man, is a very interesting game. I could see this game going either way. You look at the injuries on both sides. Packers are Jordan Loveless, and then you have the Colts secondary, which is the worst in the NFL. On top of that, they just lost Juju Brents, and then they have their best secondary player behind, or their best secondary player probably in Julian Blackmon going out. So unfortunately, this Colts secondary is very bad. Fortunately, you're not going up against Jordan Love. If you were going up against Jordan Love, it wouldn't have shocked me one single bit if Jordan Love passed for 450 plus yards against this secondary. I mean, the Packers have a decent offensive line, so they'd be able to hold off the defense line maybe a little bit, but Jordan Love could get the ball out quick. He has good weapons, but it's not Jordan Love. It's Malik Willis, and Malik Willis is on the whole other side of the spectrum. I mean, he's fast, he can run, and that's where the Packers really have the advantage here. I mean, Colts run defense didn't really look good last week. Maybe that's a week 1 thing. I think that was a week 1 thing. But the passing defense is so bad. They have to sell it to stop the pass so much that it really hinders their run defense. That could be a possibility. But, unfortunately, now you're going up against, Malik Willis. There's not really any tape on him in the offense. You then have Josh Jacobs. This could be a really deadly run game this week, and the Colts run defense is going to have to show up. Going back and forth in this game, man, I do think the Colts offense is going to do just enough. I mean, you look at the Packers defense; their strength is versus the pass. I mean, they're pretty good against the pass, but versus the run, this Packers defense is suspect. It's questionable, and not speaking about week 1 on paper, the Colts have one of the best running games in the NFL. You have a very creative head coach and Shane Steichen. You have, of course, ARJT, and you have a really good offensive line. So I do think that the Colts are going to be able to run the football and keep their defense off the field as much as you possibly can. That's what you have to do, man. I mean, this defense is a mess. It's horrible. It wouldn't shock me. We go up some of these better quarterbacks in the stretch here. Would not shock me one bit. I'm going to make a bold prediction that a quarterback may just break the passing yards record versus the Colts this season. I'm not sure who, but that would be interesting. I mean, that's how bad the secondary is. So, but I am taking the Colts. I'm going to take the Colts by 3 points. This is a game I probably won't put any money on. I won't touch the spread. It's a interesting matchup. It's week 2, and no Jordan Love. Although the Packers have a good football team, and Matt LaFleur, he's very good in situations like these. He's very good at scheming around things like those. But at the end of the day, the players have to go out there and and execute. And we'll see if they can do that. We'll see how Malik Willis will fare versus a very poor secondary, a poor defense. But I do think the Colts defense line is pretty good. So they're going to pressure Malik Willis. But I am taking the Colts by 3. But it wouldn't shock me if this game goes either way. The Colts need to get that run game going. They get that run game going, and they can make a couple of good throws. Don't force anything. Don't overthrow shit. Like he overthrew like 6-7 passes last week. It was bad, and important downs too. So we'll see how that goes. Colts 24-21, but wouldn't shock me if the Packers do find a way to win this one. All right, next up, you have the Tennessee Titans at home. They're given 3.5 points, and the Jets are favored by 3.5. In case you don't know what that means, but the Jets, I am taking the Jets 20-16. Now, I think this is going to be a really low-scoring game. Neither team will be able to turn the ball over. Neither team could afford to do that. They have to play sound football. They have to go down the field, and they have to make a couple of plays, man. And you can't turn the ball over. Like you said, you can't make any crucial mistakes. This is going to be a pretty low-scoring game, in my opinion. Both teams have really good defenses. We'll see if Aaron Rodgers can continue to get back to his old self. I mean, you could see it. He was a little slower. His footwork was a little sloppy. And, you're kind of wondering, he's getting older. Is he favoring that Achilles? Is he scared to really put forth with that Achilles? Is he really scared to put pressure? You just have that little block in the back of your mind, tearing that Achilles, being his age. But I do think the Jets have, of course, Aaron Rodgers is better than Will Levis even. It doesn't matter what Aaron Rodgers looks like now. That's not even a question. But you look at the weapons-wise, both teams have okay weapons, but I think Aaron Rodgers is better. And then I don't think I know. The Jets offensive line is fine. You have Elijah Vera Tucker. You have the exterior Tyron Smith, and the Titans do have a good defensive line. They're gonna have to, the Jets are gonna have to find a way to stop Jeffrey Simmons. But you do have Elijah Vera Tucker, probably double team, probably a little bit of double teams too. But yeah, I think the New York Jets should be fine. But I think they should win. I think we're going to see a vintage Aaron Rodgers drive here, maybe towards the end of the game. Maybe it's 13-16, and you see a vintage Aaron Rodgers drive versus one of the better defenses in the NFL to win this football game. 3.5. I get, given the Titans 3.5, Jets favored by 3.5. I'm not sure if I would put any money on this. Honestly, it sucks. You wish it would be like 2.5, maybe 2.5 instead of 3.5. But it wouldn't shock me if this is just a 3-point win for the Jets. But either way, I think it's going to be a good defensive battle. But it's the Titans have a really good defensive battle. So points are going to be scarce in this one. But I do have the Jets taking this one 20-16. Next up, you have the Minnesota Vikings taking on the San Francisco 49ers. Vikings at home. I don't think that makes much of a difference. Sam Darnold looked pretty good last week, but that was the New York Giants. Now you're facing one of the heavyweights of the NFL in the San Francisco 49ers, Purdy. I'm not sure if Christian McCaffrey is going to be back, but that running back that stepped up for McCaffrey, I can't remember his name, but dude, he looked insane. Is that going to continue? I don't know. But the Niners do have a decent enough, they do, their offensive line scares me a little bit. I think their exterior is pretty good. Trent Williams is obviously incredible, but their offensive line scares me a little bit sometimes. But they should be fine, whether it's Christian McCaffrey or not. They just put a beating on the Jets. They really beat up on Aaron Rodgers, and I wasn't too impressed with the Jets' skill position versus the Niners, but that gives a lot of testaments. That gives a lot of you have to give some of that credit at least to the Niners defense, getting the pressure all day long and making it difficult for Aaron Rodgers back there. But the Vikings are given 5.5 points. That means the Niners are favored by 5.5. I would absolutely throw some money on this, man. I think that line is a little small, honestly. I thought that this line may have been opened up at maybe 8 or 9 or I thought it would be one of the bigger spreads, but, I think, a lot of people look at the Vikings week 1 and saying, hey, maybe the Vikings are better than I thought. Maybe they are a little better than we thought, but don't forget they played the Giants, and, the Giants week 1 didn't look bad. I'm not going completely cold turkey on the Giants yet, but, they looked horrible. Daniel Jones looked horrible. The Giants couldn't really get much going, but the Minnesota Vikings, now you're going from the Giants to the 49ers, and unfortunately, That momentum is going to come to a scream to a halt this weekend versus the Niners. 31-16, San Francisco 49ers. Brock Purdy throws all over them. I really don't think that the Vikings have too much substance on that roster. I mean, I like the offensive line and I like Aaron Jones, but does Aaron Jones really fit their scheme? Will Aaron Jones really continue to do this all season long? I'm not sure. Jones is a really good running back, but and he has a good offensive line. They have a couple good receivers, Justin Jefferson, obviously, but it's not going to be enough. Defense is not going to be good enough. And I think Sam Darnold going up against his former team, maybe he knows a thing or two, but I had the Vikings scoring 16. Maybe that's a little bit too much, but I have the Niners 31-16 on that note. Oh, I just screwed this up. Okay. I just kind of switched my windows here on OBS, so everything. All right, there we go. All right, next up, I have the Seattle Seahawks beating the Patriots in New England. Now, the Seahawks are coming across the country. That definitely makes a difference. That jet lag, that time zone difference. That's a big factor. A lot of people sometimes don't realize. But the Seahawks coming across the country playing a Patriots team who just knocked off the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, the Bengals always start slow. It's a week 1 thing. I'm not gonna overreact, and I'm not gonna buy into the week 1 hype. I mean, I don't think there's really much hype, but I'm not going to let week 1 determine this game for me. I almost did. I almost did take the Patriots not because I think the Patriots are better, but the matchup isn't really the best for the Seahawks. I mean, if the Seahawks come out to a sloppy start like they did last week, allowing the Patriots to get a couple of safeties, an interception right off the gate. I mean, and the Patriots, and that Patriots defense making enough plays, keeping the Seattle's offense just hemmed in enough. I can see the Patriots winning this one. Like I said, Seattle's coming across the country and all that, I do think the Seahawks are going to find a way. I mean, they found a way last week. They were sloppy in the beginning. They still found a way. They still, looked like they played a good football game down the stretch, and they did win. They did look good at times, but you cannot afford to play sloppy football against the Patriots. They will take advantage. Jacoby Brissett takes care of the football. Doesn't mean he's going to win the Patriots the game, and Seahawks are favored by 3.5. I mean, once again, these lines are tough this week. They are tough. I don't know if I would touch this one. I think this is going to be a close game. As you see, I have the Seahawks winning by just 3 points. I don't even know if the Patriots will score 20 points. That might be way too much because Mike McDonald's defense is awesome. They're going to be flying around. So yeah, maybe looking at this again, maybe I have a little too many points on the board here. But I do think the Seahawks in the end will come out the victory. They have better skill position groups. They can run. Both can run the football well, but I think they're Seahawks are going to stop the run. They're not going to let the Patriots run like they did in week 1. And I think that's going to be a difference. Making Jacoby Brissett throw on you and beat you is the game plan and is the key to success for the Hawks here. And they do it 23-20. Seahawks taking the win. Next up, you have the Commanders and the Giants. So I'm actually, like I said, I'm not going completely cold turkey on the Giants. I think the Giants are going to come out and play a good game here. I mean, I know the Vikings, I don't think they really have a good defense. They have a couple good players there, but I think, maybe it was a week 1 thing of how bad they played and how well Darnold played. Maybe very unfortunate, just unfortunate consequences there. That could possibly be it. But, the Commanders' defense isn't good. Could they really stop a nosebleed? I don't think so. Very poor defense. I mean, they don't have too much there. Defensive line, edge rush. I don't think they could really get an edge rush on anybody. And, I think the Giants, Daniel Jones is going to be able to do enough here. Obviously, I have them scoring 27 points. So yeah, as you see, the Commanders are favored by 1.5. I think the Giants win it. I think the Giants covered their way. And, I think they do pretty convincingly, honestly. I think it would be a close game, but the Giants seem like they find a way. These two teams find a way to split, and I think that the Giants somehow are. I have the Giants taking it in Washington, but I do think the Giants go. This is my prediction for this game. I'm having a hard time talking about this game because both teams are very interesting. You don't know what to take away from week 1. I will say Jaden Daniels looked good running the football. Passing the football a little left to be desired, but he's young. He'll develop maybe. I don't really think so. I'm not a Daniels guy. I'm not a fan of the first 3 guys that were drafted in the first, second, and third overall pick. I'm not a fan of any of them. I don't think any of them are going to transpire into franchise quarterbacks. But the Commanders, I have them taking the L to the Giants here at home. I think that Daniel Jones, this is Malik Neighbors' coming out party, man. Malik Neighbors is about to go off. He's about to have his game. And I said that the Giants' defense locks up a little bit. I think that their defense will be fine. I think it's going to look a little better than it did in week 1 against Jaden Daniels. I mean, Daniels is, Daniels versus Darnold. Obviously, they played 2 different play styles, but yeah, I have the Giants winning this one. I have a feeling. A lot of people saw that the Commanders were kind of just a thorn in the Buccaneers' side, but I don't think the Commanders will be able to topple the Giants. But it'll be a good game. All right, now you're looking at this score, you'd be like, dude, you only have the Chargers beating the Panthers by 3 points. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a trap game. I think it's going to be a pretty close game. Now the Panthers aren't a good football team, as I could see either the Chargers blowing them out or it being a close game. The Chargers being like, and everyone being like, Chargers, what are you doing? There's no way you're letting the Panthers, have a decent game on you and giving you a fight right now. Well, last week, I didn't think that the Raiders would really give the Chargers too much of a fight, but the Chargers' offense was a little questionable at times. I was a little disappointed. I think there was a lot left on the board, a lot left to be desired. Very sloppy football. You let the Raiders stay in the game much longer than you should have, and now you're going up against the worst team in the NFL. You're probably going from playing a bottom 5 team to the worst team in the NFL. So. But, coming from last week, I think they're coached well. They're going to be coached well. They're going to continue to evolve under Harbaugh. But I do think that the Chargers will win this. I think it's going to be like a end of the game, close, that kind of an end of the game. But I think it's going to be a closer game than people expect. Just, I thought about taking the Panthers for the upset because it's week 2. Wild things happen, and I just had the feeling, but I'm like, instead of taking the Panthers, let's just have it be a close game. Now, if the Chargers play how you think they should play, I would take them to cover, but, that's up to you. You can't trust the Chargers. That's me. I wouldn't put money on the Chargers. You just can't trust them, and it's early in the year, too, so, you do have Herbert, you do have a couple of receivers that stepped up last week a little bit. Running backs looked pretty good, so maybe the Chargers can run the football pretty well. The Saints ran the football really well and then bank off that and then really not be close there. Is the Saints defense really all that great? I think the Saints defense is good. I don't think it's great, and I don't think that the Chargers defense is really good. I'd say it's probably below average, but I am going to take the Chargers to barely squeak this one out, 27-24. All right, Jaguars at home, Browns, both teams looking to get into the win column for the first time this year. The Jaguars are favored by 3 points. It's just, this game is going to be an interesting game, man. I don't even know where to start. It's going to be a defensive battle. Both offenses can be sloppy. Both offenses can be really sloppy. And I could see this game going either way. What kind of Deshaun Watson are we going to get? I know that the Browns did have a couple guys in practice. I think Myles Garrett and a couple guys were limited in practice, having shown up in the injury report. So that's something to monitor. I think Amari Cooper, one of them as well. I think he was a DMP. I don't remember. But they do have a couple of injuries that do definitely worry me. And if Myles Garrett is out and a couple of other guys that were on the list, they had a big injury list. This is a game I could end up switching. Trevor Lawrence, I'm not too crazy on Trevor Lawrence, but he's got a couple of nice weapons. The first round rookie that they drafted looked pretty good last week. Evan Ingram didn't really show up, but I think this is a game where Evan Ingram can show up and have a good game. Maybe the Jaguars can get that run game going a little bit with Travis Etienne. Tank Bigsby looked pretty good last week, and I like Tank Bigsby coming out. It was pretty cool to see him have a good game. But I do want to see the Jaguars keep with that run. And now you're playing the Browns, one of the better defenses in the NFL, I think. I think it's, maybe not as good as last year, but it is a very good defense. But 2019, I have the Browns very barely winning this game, but it'd be a very close game, man. I mean, we'll see how the defenses do. We see, points will probably be scarce once again. But you never know. It could be a sloppy game, that weird Week 2 game where instead of it being a low-scoring game, it might be a shootout. You never know. It's just how things go. Sometimes you think a game is going to be a shootout. It's a low-scoring game. Sometimes you think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Or you guys know what I mean. Or if it's going to be a low-scoring game, it's going to be a shootout. Or if you think it's going to be a shootout, it'll be low-scoring. Yeah, my mind thinks faster than, I overthink things a little bit sometimes, but just simple things like that. It happens. Just while you're talking, lose train of thought and stuff. But all right, 2019 Browns over Jaguars. This one might change. So next up, you have Baltimore home taking on the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders had a couple of opportunities last week. They kept themselves in the game. They're a little bit of a thorn to the side of the Chargers, but now you're playing. It's kind of similar to the matchup we were talking about earlier. You have the Vikings going from the Giants from the Giants to the Niners, and the Raiders are going from the Chargers to the Baltimore Ravens. But I mean, the Chargers are miles ahead better than the Giants. I mean, no, maybe they're a little closer than you think, just in different ways. Quarterback-wise, obviously, Chargers, so I'm going to take the Chargers. But defensive-wise, Giants definitely have a better defense. But all right, off topic. Let's get back on topic. Baltimore Ravens, I think they win this matchup. I don't think it's really going to be too much of a question. It's week 2, though. As I keep mentioning that, until after week 3 or 4, I think you're out of the danger zone of wacky football. But I don't think the Ravens shouldn't have too much of an issue with the Raiders. I mean, Lamar, you got to start making those important throws, but are they going to need to throw the football too much? They're probably just going to be able to run down the throats of the Raiders. I don't think the Raiders are going to be able to do too much to stop it. Baltimore's defense, still an awesome defense, one of the better defenses. You played the Chiefs week 1, but favored by 9. I mean, I think the Ravens can cover that. But yeah, I do have the Ravens being up in the Raiders pretty good. I mean, the Raiders, they have some weapons, man. They have Adams, they have Waller. They have a couple of weapons, but it's not going to be enough to keep up with the Ravens. Ravens are going to run the football. I wouldn't be shocked if the Ravens score less. That's something to note. How much the Ravens are going to run the football could really chew clock and maybe shave off how many points they score and how much they win by. So that could be something to take a look at when you're betting on this game. But Ravens favored by 9. Take the Ravens 34-13 in a pretty simple decision in my opinion. All right, next you have the Cardinals home, Rams. Cardinals at home. I mean, good divisional matchup, and we saw some explosiveness out of the Cardinals offense last week. A little disappointing seeing Marvin Harrison Jr. open, a couple of times, and the one time where he was just, bare naked, wide open, dude. It was that sucked, and that could have been the difference in the game there. But, the Cardinals put up a good fight against the Bills. They came out strong. They came out firing. And are they going to come out firing versus the Rams again? Or if they could get another fast start, strong start, I think the Cardinals have a really good shot, because I think the Rams defense is much, 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 much worse than the Bills. And, they're going to struggle to get pressure on their quarterback a little bit. I mean, don't get me wrong. They have a couple of guys in that line that are going to get pressure. But without Aaron Donald, without a couple guys from last year, I mean, it's just not the same. It's just going to be a little difficult. No Aaron Donald, you're going to feel it. But the more I'm thinking about this, maybe the Cardinals, maybe you should take the Cardinals in this game. But I do like Matthew Stafford, Kupp, and no, I'm going to stick with the Rams because I trust these guys more. I think that this Rams defense or this Rams offense is going to be a little more explosive than the Cardinals offense. Maybe I should have had this one a higher scoring game. The more I'm thinking about it, but there could be some sloppiness in the game early in the season. You never know. But I now I'm thinking about it more. I'm pretty confident in the Rams. I'm way more confident in Matthew Stafford. What we saw from week 1 with Kyler Murray. I thought it was all right. You saw a couple good things besides the wide open Marvin Harrison Jr. But I mean, I'm taking the Rams. I'm just saying I have a lot more trust in the Rams offense and Matthew Stafford than I do in Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. And both defenses aren't great, but I think the Rams have, they have, a couple things there that can challenge the Cardinals offense. And we'll see the Cardinals have weapons all over the place. McBride, and could they get the run game going? I'm not really too sure, but I think the Rams will get that run game going. And on top of that, Matthew Stafford, Kupp, Puka's actually out. That's right, but nonetheless, I do think that the Rams, Matthew Stafford will make whatever he has work. So I have Rams 24-20. Cardinals are favored by 1. So I mean, I wouldn't mind taking the Rams here. It's only 1 point. Wouldn't mind taking the Rams, taking a chance on them. All right. So next up, we have the Denver Broncos at home. Take on the Steelers. Steelers traveling to Mile High. That's always something to take into consideration. Less oxygen, a lot of something that you really got to prepare for. Really got to understand that does have an effect right away. It does have a bit of an effect. Sometimes it takes teams a couple of drives to get used to it. So maybe that's the Broncos' chance to get out to an early lead here. This once again could be a game with low scoring, scarce scoring. I mean, week 1 was interesting in that point. How will week 2 fare with the quarterbacks? I mean, a lot of quarterbacks struggle in week 1. Just defenses were finding a way, and are they going to be able to do it in week 2? So far, I have that happening, but Steelers scoring 20. I think that's very plausible. I mean, Justin Fields, Russ Wilson's questionable, but I think it should be Fields playing. Isaac Samalu's out. That's something to take into consideration. I think Roman Wilson is questionable. I think that could be a big win for the Steelers offense. You get him in there. But Fields, against that Broncos run defense, I think that Fields should be able to run the football pretty well. I think that maybe he throws his first 2 passing touchdowns. He's got a couple weapons, man. He's got Pickens. Hopefully Roman Wilson comes back. But I am a fan, of the Steelers defense. The Steelers defense is incredible. It's awesome. It's one of the best in the NFL. It's just insane. So much pass rush, and you have a good passing defense. You have Minka. There are so many good aspects to this defense that you really gotta be careful, if you're Bo Nix here. And in the Steelers, that's kind of why I have the Steelers winning this football game. I mean, Bo Nix, young quarterback, we saw that he struggled last week, and Mike Tomlin and the Steelers defense is not going to make it any easier on him. I mean, he's going to make it just as hard. He's going to get a lot of pressure on Bo Nix, and don't get me wrong, I like Bo Nix. I think he's a good quarterback, but I don't think he's going to be able to overcome what the Steelers are going to bring to him in Mile High. It would be pretty cool to see Bo Nix win their first game at home there, but I don't think it's going to happen. Broncos are given 2.5. Steelers are favored by 2.5. I take the Steelers, man. I think the Steelers will cover. I know it's going to be a low-scoring game. Could the Steelers actually score a touchdown, which is a good question, but 2013 Steelers, I mean, that defense is going to be too strong for Bo Nix and the Broncos run game. I think the Steelers have this one in the bag, honestly. I think this is one. Although, we'll see what we got from Bo Nix and how that Broncos offensive line holds up. How will that Broncos defense look? They were opportunistic last week. Can they do the same this week? And, if they could get a couple turnovers, get into Steelers territory and, get some short field distances to go to score some points, I think that the Broncos could win this football game. And that could be the difference in a low-scoring game like that. But I do think that the Steelers defense will be too much. I think that Justin Fields and the Steelers offense will take care of the ball. So I think they're going to run the ball right. So I'm taking Steelers 2013. Could be a little closer. Maybe 7 is a little bit more of a win gap than it will be. But I'm confident that the Steelers, if they do win, that they'll win by 3 or more, 3 points. So. All right, next matchup. Let's see. We got the Kansas City Chiefs at home taking on Bengals. Listen, man, you're going to look at this and you're going to be like, what are you talking about? I mean, the Bengals just lost to the New England Patriots. But that's the point. It's week 2, right? The Chiefs always, they always start really well. It seems like the Chiefs, beginning of October, they usually have their first loss, but I can see it happening here. My big issue with the Bengals is their run defense. I think they have one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. But I think if the Bengals could get out in front of the Chiefs early, I think that Joe Burrow and the Bengals can and will outscore the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs favored by 5.5. I don't know if I would touch this line. I mean, if the game goes how it should go, the way the Bengals looked in week 1, the Chiefs should win by more than 5 points. But looking at week 1, Bengals looked horrible. Offense looked horrible. And that Chiefs defense is better than the Patriots defense. But I think it's going to be an early season thing. And, even considering that, the Bengals have a chance. Any team has a chance, but the Bengals, I mean, I think it's just things that happen in the NFL sometimes, man. Coming off losing to a team that isn't very good and then go ahead and beating one of the best teams in the NFL like the Kansas City Chiefs, I can see it happen. I can see it happening. And if any team will do that, it's the Bengals. It's the Bengals. So I do with the Bengals. Just inching out. Just inching out and upsetting the Kansas City Chiefs at home. And having the Chiefs go 1-1, the Bengals go 1-1. It's just a feeling thing. I can't really explain this one too much. And looking at week 1, how beginning of the season is, I don't really need to keep saying it, but I think Burrow. And I think the Bengals are going to run the football. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but I do think that Burrow will. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. I think the Bengals and Joe Burrow are going to find a way to win this football game this weekend and surprise people after the loss of the Patriots. That's just an NFL thing, man. But you do have Patrick Mahomes on the other side, and it doesn't really matter. He's going to come out and he's going to play his absolute best, and he's going to be really hard to beat. But it's just going to be one of those weeks. Mahomes just gets the short end of the stick. So I have the Bengals taking it. All right, next up. Houston Texans at home. Bears traveling to Houston. So, the Bears' offense was responsible for 0% of the points last week versus the Titans. Now, the Titans have a very good defense. The Houston Texans, I think, have a good defense. And they stopped the run really well last week. So, the Bears are gonna want to run the football a little bit. And they do have some really good weapons. But I don't see Caleb Williams out-dueling CJ Stroud, Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, and then you have a really strong run game on top of that. The Bears' defense is their strength. The Bears. See, now this video is getting a little longer. I'm starting to stumble. But the Bears' defense is their strength. I think they have a good defense. I think they have a solid defense. And their special teams looked pretty good last week. But that's not going to bail you out versus one of the best teams in the NFL. The Houston Texans still have a really good defense. Really good defense. They're going to get pressure. They're going, maybe they'll have to try and limit the big plays this week. But I don't think Caleb Williams is anything special. I don't think he's a great quarterback. I don't think he's going to be anything special. So, even if he was going to, I would still take the Texans and CJ Stroud. Just a better football team, better roster, better team all around. They should have their way with the Bears at home in their home opener. And they're favored by 6. Go ahead. Throw it. I think that the Texans should absolutely win by more than 6. So I thought this was a pretty easy one, but it's week 2, man. I mean, crazy things happen. You really never know. But yeah, I have Houston 27-16 over the Bears, and I think they could absolutely win by more than 6 points. The offense is going to go crazy. Doesn't matter whose defense they play. That offense and the weapons and Stroud, they will be fine. Last game of the week, Monday Night Football. Not gonna talk about this too much because we have a premiere for all the primetime games. Well, Thursday and Monday night primetime games, we have our own special premieres for them. So I'm not gonna get into it too much. But I think this is a game where we get a vintage Kirk Cousins drive towards the end of the game. Of course, you have, and the Falcons have a good defense. They did very good against the Steelers last week. Now, granted, how good is the Steelers' offense? It's still a question that will be answered as the season goes along. But Eagles' defense didn't, the defense wasn't really great last week. They did allow 414 yards to the Packers and Jordan Love and what they got over there. And now you're taking on the Falcons. Now they are at home, so that's why I kind of, thought maybe I shouldn't go with this upset. Maybe I shouldn't go with the Falcons, but I'm going with the Falcons, man. I think that the Falcons are gonna, maybe they won't be able to run the football great, but I think they have a good defense. They have a solid enough defense. AJ Terrell is great. I think did they sign Justin Simmons? I know they traded for someone. They traded for one of the was it Matthew Judon? That who it was? Great edge rusher. And you look at the offense, they can push the ball down the field. They didn't do it against the Steelers, but that Steelers defense is one of the best. Is one of the better in the NFL. They are great. They are insane. But the Eagles defense is still adjusting. They're still learning. And I think Drake London, Kyle Pitts, I think the Falcons with Kirk Cousins, even though Kirk Cousins is still coming back from the injuries, still trying to use the new system. I'm a little worried about the Eagles pass rush. I'm a little worried about the edge rush. And if you're not going to get a lot of pressure on Kirk Cousins, he's going to carve you up. And Jalen Hurts has to take care of the ball a little better as well. But that's it. We'll stop there. Taking the Atlanta Falcons 28-27. Eagles are favored by 6.5. I don't know. I think that's too much. I think that's way too much. Just because the Falcons lost in week 1 to the Steelers does not mean that they are not a good football team. They are a good football team, and they will be a good football team. I think down the stretch they will be one of the better teams in the NFC. Could be a hot take, could be a bold take, but that's what I see in the Falcons. So, yeah, guys, that's all I got for you guys this week. Thank you for tuning in to the JW Sports Talk Show. Thank you for tuning in to our predictions for week 2. Pretty long video about going through every game, talking about every game a little bit. So I appreciate you guys stopping by. Make sure you like, subscribe, put the post notification bell on so you don't miss any future videos. Join that Discord to always be able to talk with the community and stay with the community, great people in there. So we always have a good time talking some football, whether we're on the show or posting a video, making a video or not. It's 24/7 talking about football. Great people in there, respectful people, have a good debate. It's fun. Participate in Hot Take Tuesday by joining. At the end of every month, we have a giveaway. So that's it. Thank you for tuning into the JW Sports Talk Show. I will catch you guys next week. Thank you.